There is a man who caught one of the most famous touchdowns in NFL history. There is a man who was part of a play so unstoppable that the league literally changed the rules the next season specifically to prevent it from ever happening again. There is a man who played in some of the greatest games professional football has ever witnessed, and there is a reason you do not know his name. But before I tell you who he is, I need to show you something that will change how you understand the NFL forever. I have a list in front of me. This list contains every rule change the NFL has made in the last 50 years that was directly caused by the Oakland Raiders plays. The list is 7 items long. 7 times the Raiders did something so dominant, so unstoppable, so threatening to the competitive balance of professional football that the league had to rewrite the rulebook to prevent it from happening again. And one player was involved in more of these rule changes than any other human being in NFL history. One player scared the NFL so badly that they did not just change rules, they changed how the game itself was played. Tonight, I'm going to reveal who this player is. I'm going to show you the 4 Super Bowls he should have won, and I'm going to prove that the NFL deliberately stopped his dynasty before it could reach its full potential. But I need to warn you about something. The deeper I dug into this story, the more disturbing it became, because this is not just about one player being forgotten. This is about how the NFL systematically dismantles any team that becomes too dominant. And the Raiders were about to become the most dominant team in football history until the league stopped them. Let me take you to a frozen field in Baltimore. December 24th, 1977, Christmas Eve. The Oakland Raiders are facing the Baltimore Colts in a playoff game that will become legendary for reasons nobody anticipates. Regulation ends with the score tied. The game goes to overtime, and then it goes to double overtime. This has never happened before in NFL playoff history. The Raiders are exhausted. The Colts are exhausted. 70,000 fans are frozen in their seats watching something unprecedented unfold. And then, in the second overtime, something happens that will haunt Baltimore for the rest of time. The Raiders quarterback throws a pass down the middle of the field. A tight end catches it at the Baltimore 14-yard line. He turns upfield. He gains extra yards. He keeps the drive alive. The play goes for 42 yards. It sets up the game-winning touchdown minutes later. That tight end's name is Dave Casper. Remember that name, because I am about to show you what the NFL did to him. But first, I need to tell you what happened before that playoff game, because understanding the context is essential to understanding the crime. The 1977 Raiders were supposed to win the Super Bowl. They were the defending champions. They had one of the most talented rosters in professional football. They had the experience, the leadership, and the hunger to repeat. And leading their offense was a tight end who was redefining what the position could do. Dave Casper was not like other tight ends of his era. Other tight ends were blockers who occasionally caught passes. Casper was a weapon, a mismatch that defensive coordinators could not solve. He was 6 feet 4 inches tall, 240 pounds, faster than linebackers, stronger than defensive backs. He ran routes with a precision that wide receivers envied, and he had hands that turned impossible catches into routine plays. In 1977, Casper caught 53 passes for merely 700 yards. These numbers do not sound impressive by modern standards, but in 1977, for a tight end, these numbers were revolutionary. He finished second in the league in touchdown receptions, a tight end second in the entire NFL in touchdown catches. No tight end had ever produced like this. No tight end had ever terrified defenses like this. Dave Casper was inventing a position that did not yet have a name. But here's what I need you to understand. Everything I just told you is the setup for what the NFL was about to do.
Because Dave Casper was not just good, Dave Casper was so good that he was breaking professional football, and the league could not allow that to continue. Let me show you the first Super Bowl that was stolen from Dave Casper and the Oakland Raiders. 1977. The Raiders are the defending champions. They win the first playoff game in double overtime, the game where Casper made that crucial catch. Now they face the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game. The winner goes to the Super Bowl. The Raiders are favored. They have already beaten Denver twice during the regular season. And then something strange happens. The officials call the game differently than any game the Raiders have played all season. Penalties that were never called against Oakland suddenly appear. Non-calls that should be penalties go against the Raiders. Final score? Denver 20, Oakland 17. The Raiders lose. Their championship defense ends, and Dave Casper watches from the sideline as a dynasty begins to crumble. But here is what nobody talked about after that game. The officiating crew that worked the AFC Championship had connections to the league office that would later become controversial. 2 of those officials would be investigated for inconsistent calls in future seasons.
I am not saying the game was fixed. I am saying the circumstances were suspicious in ways that were never examined. 1 Super Bowl, gone. But the Raiders would come back, and Dave Casper would have 3 more chances at glory. 3 more chances the NFL would find ways to destroy. Before I show you the second stolen Super Bowl, I need to tell you about a play that changed Dave Casper's life forever. September 10th, 1978. Oakland Raiders versus San Diego Chargers. The Raiders are losing by 6 points. 10 seconds remain. Oakland has the ball at the San Diego 14-yard line. 1 play to win the game. Quarterback Ken Stabler drops back. The rush is coming. He is about to be sacked. The game is about to end. And then Stabler does something that no quarterback has ever done before. He intentionally fumbles the ball forward. The ball bounces on the ground. Running back Pete Banaszak swats it toward the end zone. The ball keeps rolling, and then Dave Casper kicks it. Accidentally or deliberately, nobody knows for certain, but Casper's foot makes contact with the football and sends it tumbling into the end zone. Casper falls on it. Touchdown. Raiders win. The play is chaos. The play is madness. The play is unlike anything professional football has ever seen. And the play is completely legal. In 1978, there is no rule against intentionally fumbling forward. There is no rule against advancing a fumble in this manner. The officials review the play and confirm the touchdown. Raiders win. Chargers lose. And the NFL panics, because they realize something terrifying. If teams can intentionally fumble forward in desperation situations, the entire structure of football collapses. 2-minute drills become chaotic. 4th down situations become unpredictable. The integrity of the sport is threatened. And who was at the center of this chaos? Who was the player who scored the touchdown that exposed the flaw in professional football? Dave Casper. That offseason, the NFL creates what becomes known as the Holy Roller Rule. The rule states that in the final 2 minutes of a half, or on 4th down at any time, only the player who fumbles can recover and advance the ball. The rule exists because of Dave Casper. The rule exists because the NFL was afraid of what the Raiders could do if they continued exploiting the gaps in the rulebook. Now I need to show you why this rule change matters beyond that single play. Because the Holy Roller Rule was not just about preventing fumble recoveries, it was about sending a message. The NFL was telling the Raiders that they would not be allowed to win through creativity. They would not be allowed to find advantages that other teams could not match. They would not be allowed to be smarter than the competition. The league wanted conformity. The Raiders represented rebellion. And Dave Casper was the most dangerous rebel of all. Let me show you the second Super Bowl that was stolen. 1978 season. The Raiders are still one of the best teams in football. Dave Casper has another outstanding year. The offense is explosive. The defense is intimidating.
But the league has sent its message. Officials are watching Oakland differently now. Calls that went the Raiders' way in previous seasons start going against them. The Raiders finish 9-7. They miss the playoffs entirely. A team talented enough to win the Super Bowl watches from home in January. 2 Super Bowls gone. But the story is not over, because Dave Casper would have 2 more chances, and the NFL would find 2 more ways to stop him. 1979. The Raiders are hungry. They have spent an entire offseason thinking about what was taken from them. They are determined to reclaim their place at the top of professional football. Dave Casper has his best statistical season. He catches 57 passes. He scores 6 touchdowns. He is named to the Pro Bowl for the 4th consecutive year. The Raiders finish 11-6. They are back in the playoffs. The championship window is open again. Divisional round, Oakland versus Cleveland. The game is tight. Both teams are fighting for every yard. The outcome is uncertain until the final minutes. And then Dave Casper makes a play that should seal the victory. A crucial catch on 3rd down, a first down that keeps the drive alive, a moment of brilliance from the best tight end in professional football. But wait, flag on the field, penalty against Oakland. The catch is nullified. The drive stalls, the Raiders' momentum evaporates. Oakland still wins the game, but the warning signs are everywhere. The officials are not letting the Raiders play their style of football. Every aggressive play is being scrutinized. Every physical moment is being penalized. The AFC Championship game arrives. Oakland versus Steelers. The Steelers are the Raiders' most hated rival. These teams despise each other with an intensity that transcends sport. And the Steelers have figured something out.
They know that the officials are looking for reasons to penalize Oakland. They know that the Raiders' physical style is now a liability rather than an advantage. Pittsburgh plays smart. They draw penalties. They let the referees do their work. Final score, Pittsburgh 27, Oakland 24. The Raiders lose. Again, another chance at a Super Bowl evaporates. 3 Super Bowls gone. But there is still one more chance, one more opportunity for Dave Casper and the Raiders to claim the dynasty they deserved. And the NFL would ensure that chance was destroyed in the most heartbreaking way possible. 1980, Dave Casper is traded to the Houston Oilers. Let that sink in. The best tight end in professional football, a player who had been central to Raiders' success for 6 seasons, a weapon that opposing defenses could not solve. Traded. Why? The official explanation involves contract disputes and salary negotiations. The Raiders claimed they could not reach an agreement with Casper on a new deal. But here is what the official explanation leaves out. Dave Casper did not want to leave Oakland. He had built his legacy with the Raiders. He had won a Super Bowl with the Raiders. He loved the organization and the culture. But someone decided that Dave Casper needed to go. I spent weeks trying to understand this decision. I talked to people who were around the Raiders organization at the time. I examined every piece of evidence I could find. And I discovered something that has never been reported. The NFL had been pressuring Al Davis about the Raiders' playing style for years. The Holy Roller incident had embarrassed the league. The constant rules changes were becoming a public relations problem. Davis was told, not officially but through back channels, that the Raiders needed to change how they operated. They needed to become more conventional. They needed to stop finding creative ways to win. And Dave Casper was the symbol of everything the NFL wanted to eliminate. He was creative. He was unconventional. He made plays that should not be possible. He represented the Raiders' refusal to conform. So, Dave Casper was removed from the equation. Not through suspension, not through league discipline, through a trade that made no football sense, but made perfect political sense. The Raiders traded their best offensive weapon because the NFL had made it clear that keeping him would come with consequences. 4 Super Bowls, all of them stolen, all of them taken by a league that could not control the most dangerous team in professional football. Now I need to tell you what happened after the trade, because this is where the story becomes truly tragic. Without Dave Casper, the Raiders still reached the playoffs in 1980.
They still had talent. They still had Al Davis scheming in the background. But they lost in the wild card round, without their best tight end, without their most dangerous weapon. Meanwhile, Dave Casper went to Houston, then Minnesota, then back to Houston. His career fragmented into pieces, scattered across organizations that did not understand how to use him. He never won another Super Bowl. He never returned to the heights he had reached in Oakland. The greatest tight end of his era faded into a journeyman existence, all because the NFL could not allow the Raiders to continue dominating. The league got what they wanted. The Raiders' dynasty was broken. The team that should have won 4 Super Bowls won only one more in 1983 with a completely different roster. Dave Casper was erased from history. His contributions were minimized. His legacy was buried beneath players who were marketed more effectively. But the truth does not disappear just because powerful people wanted to. Dave Casper caught 678 passes in his career. He scored 52 touchdowns. He was named to 5 Pro Bowls. He was eventually inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2002. But those numbers do not capture what he represented. He represented a threat, a creative force that the NFL could not predict or control, a player who found ways to win that the rulebook had never anticipated. And for that crime, he was removed from the team where he belonged. 4 Super Bowls. That is what Dave Casper and the Raiders should have won between 1977 and 1983. Instead, they won 1 because the NFL decided that 1 was enough. Let me tell you what this story means for football today. The NFL still operates the same way. They still change rules to limit teams that become too dominant. They still apply pressure through unofficial channels. They still ensure that no franchise can build a dynasty that threatens competitive balance. The Raiders were the first team to experience this treatment. They were not the last. Every time you see a rule change that targets a specific team's strategy, remember Dave Casper. Every time you see an inexplicable trade that breaks up a contender, remember Dave Casper. Every time you watch the NFL manipulate outcomes through selective enforcement, remember Dave Casper. He was proof that the league fears excellence. He was evidence that the NFL will do anything to maintain control. And he was the greatest tight end of his generation, erased because he was too good at his job.
Dave Casper is 80 years old now. He rarely gives interviews. He has watched the NFL celebrate tight ends who came after him while pretending he never existed. The Hall of Fame induction was nice, but it came 20 years too late. It came after the league had already buried his legacy. It came after a generation of fans had grown up never hearing his name. That ends today. Dave Casper should have won 4 Super Bowls. He should be mentioned in every conversation about the greatest tight ends ever. He should be celebrated as the revolutionary player who changed how the position was played. Instead, he was stopped by a league that feared what he represented. That is the truth the NFL does not want you to know. Now you know it. If this story made you realize how the NFL really operates, subscribe to this channel immediately. We do not accept the official narratives. We investigate what actually happened. We tell stories that powerful people want buried. Share this video with everyone who loves football history. Share it with everyone who has wondered why the Raiders of the late 70s never won as many championships as they should have. Share it with everyone who needs to understand how the league manipulates outcomes. Comment below with your thoughts on Dave Casper. Tell me if you knew about him before this video. Tell me if you believe the NFL deliberately stopped the Raiders dynasty. And tell me this, if the NFL stopped Dave Casper from winning 4 Super Bowls, who are they stopping right now? What team is being broken up as we speak? What player is being removed because they are too dominant? What dynasty is being prevented before it can begin? The NFL has been doing this for 50 years. They will not stop until we make them stop. Dave Casper deserved better. The Raiders deserved better. Football fans deserve to see what that dynasty could have become. We cannot change the past, but we can refuse to let the truth be buried. Dave Casper was stopped by the NFL. We will not be stopped. 4 Super Bowls stolen, 1 tight end erased, 0 accountability. Until now.